What's up YouTube? Christian Review Cave here, and today I have another review video for the next recent chapter of My Hero Academia. Chapter 260 came out on yesterday at the time of this recording. Hopefully I uploaded right away. And I have to say, a lot happened that I both called and was not expecting. So let's start with the fact that Endeavor ends up coming face to face with Dr. Ujiko, or what seemed like Dr. Ujiko. So Aizawa ends up using his erasure quirk on the doctor in case he had a quirk, and it confirms that he was in fact hiding a quirk. In fact, there was some quirk that kept him from aging, at least to a certain extent. Because once Aizawa erased his quirk, he turned into a decrepit old man, like he was over 100 years old. Not to mention, it would also explain how All For One was able to survive for so long. How he's been able to live for this long without, aging the way he would normally be. So what I believe is Ujiko either already had this quirk and was with All For One from the beginning, or he ended up discovering some of that quirk, copied that quirk, gave it to himself and All For One. That way he can help All For One, and All For One can in fact remain young, so that he can inevitably either find a successor, which actually now that's the main priority, a successor for All For One, or just to keep All For One at the top in the world of quirks, pretty much. So what happens next is essentially, I love President Mike's approach to this. He straight up goes into Ujiko's face and starts yelling at him why he would end up using this gift that he has to help a villain like All For One, a guy that would slaughter hundreds of people, who would, and not to mention Ujiko was experimenting on so many people just to copy their quirks. It would make no sense to an average person. With Ujiko's quirk, with the research to copy quirks now, which we can only assume, he could have been a real live hero, not like, an employed hero with a quirk that could legitimately use their own physical body to fight villains and stuff like that, but a hero in the medical field. He can keep people living for a long time. His quirk the quirk that he has is pretty much the cure for human aging, pretty much. So if everyone ended up getting that quirk, they would be young for their whole lives. Maybe they would die of illness regardless, or if they're killed by someone, that's fine. But you basically get to keep a good chunk of your youth. But things don't end up staying the way they are, because once Ujiko says something, Nomus automatically start popping out from the morgue and through the wall, so basically piercing Ujiko, which we then find out is actually a twice clone. So, and Ujiko is in fact at that hospital in the sub-basement where he has Shigaraki and a bunch of the copied quirks in jars. So it turns out he had twice make a clone of himself so that he can be at the hospital doing the experiments, but also have a copy of himself do the rounds in the hospital to help keep everything afloat. Keep up appearances, because while he does rarely go to the hospitals, an occasional visit would help. Especially in case someone with a really useful quirk comes by to give to Shigaraki. And next up, after we find out that he was in fact a clone created by Twice, we get the main debut of the new best girl in My Hero Academia, Mirko, the rabbit hero. Number 5 is way too low for her. Once she enters the morgue where Tsukauchi's informant told the Nomu will most likely being held, all of a sudden Mirko just bursts through, and once the Nomu start coming, she eradicates all of them with no effort whatsoever. Like there are a few of the weak gray Nomu and this really strong black Nomu. I mean, she hasn't fought a high end, but the fact that she managed to take out all those Nomu, which mostly had 2 or more quirks, mostly 2 or 3 quirks at the same time, without breaking a sweat, and that quickly, she is insanely powerful. She's strong, she's agile, and she's ready for a fight. This also comes to mind of all the different things that go into ranking heroes, because I do believe that when she was mentioned in either the Vigilantes manga or like some of Horikoshi's side notes or in the main series at some point. I don't think she's part of an agency. Maybe it's just her fighting villains or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but it is what it is, and it would explain why she is at a lower ranking. Because I do believe that she deserves to be at least in the top 3. She's deserving of being in the top 5, obviously, but I do believe she should have been at least 3 in the top in hero rankings. So it does come to mind that it takes a lot more to be in the top 5, top 3 even, despite having insanely powerful quirks and being very handy. I think teamwork is also a big thing. I mean, Endeavor and Hawks had such a really good teamwork moment against the high-end Nomu that attacked in the Pro Hero arc right before the 1A V1B fight. So, I do believe that we'll be seeing a lot more of Mirko, and I do want to see her get pushed to her limits and end up fighting a hell of a ton of high-ranking members of the Liberation Army and the high-ends. I really do like her design and her character just by seeing her right in this chapter. I'm sure everyone that has been reading the manga really loves her character. Not to mention, now, enough fanboying off of this awesome character that got a real debut in this manga, and I do want to see more of her. Let's move on and continue the story before I start fanboying about her again. Well, actually, I am going to fanboy about her again because this chapter ends off with her confronting Dr. Ujiko, presumably the real one. So after Mirko takes down all the Nomu in her path, she breaks down the wall, shatters, inadvertently, unknowingly shatters all the jarred quirks that Ujiko had. And Johnny, the Nomu that did the teleportation, right before Ujiko was going to use him to teleport himself and Shigaraki away. Now, Mirko is face-to-face with the Doctor. A lot could happen in this scene. For one, the Doctor is once again terrified at the end of this chapter. For all we know, this could be another clone. I honestly don't think it was another clone. I don't think they're going to do that elaborate of a trap. But if it was that elaborate of a trap, if this really is one giant trap, this would be amazing. And if Shigaraki was the one that came up with this plan along with Destro right before he went into his surgery, then that would be freaking amazing. I knew Shigaraki developed way more than I was initially going to be thinking, and he's grown into an amazing villain. But if he, along with the support of Destro, who has been running the Meta Liberation Army for a long time, if they came up with this plan together, and Shigaraki was willing to put his real body on the line for this shows how confident he is in his strength, and that even if his surgery is halted by the heroes, he'd be able to take them out. Because remember, a few chapters ago, one of the I believe it was 268 or 267. I mean, 258 or 257. My mistake. Sorry. At the very end, it said it was a day that heroes disappeared from the city. So for all we know, what happens next is, well, Mirko, if this is the real Doctor and the real Shigaraki, and Mirko takes down Ujiko with no problem, she'll try and do something to halt Shigaraki's transformation. But they don't know that Shigaraki's quirk has unlocked its full potential that has been suppressed for years. Now, this could end up leading to an amazingly difficult fight for Mirko until the rest of the heroes show up. This could lead to the destruction of the hospital. Mirko could probably be buried under rubble. She survived. I really hope. If this happens, I really don't want her to die or get seriously injured. And I'm fanboying about this character again. But anyway, this could lead up to a lot of things that could happen. I really do hope this is a trap, because I highly doubt Horikoshi's going to have the villains get taken down so easily, especially get Shigaraki digging in. So what could happen if this isn't like a full-fledged trap? Most likely the assault on the Liberation Army mansion is a full-fledged trap. I have no problem believing that is a one big trap. But what I personally believe is that this moment in the hospital, Shigaraki probably really is there. And I feel like he's going to, like I said in my previous video, he might break out of his containment early. He might not be at full power. He might not be at full power if he's broken out by Mirko to try and arrest him or something like that. Or maybe for some reason the Doctor's calculations were wrong, and and Shigaraki broke out earlier. Excuse me, broke out earlier. Now this is a very interesting thing that I really hope. Hiccups. I really hope for. If Shigaraki breaks out prematurely, either by getting broken out by a hero or on his own, either way, Mirko by herself, much as I love her now, she won't be able to handle Shigaraki on her own, especially if he has multiple quirks that the doctor managed to copy and place into his body. Not to mention, I do believe that without them, Shigaraki would still be able to take down a good chunk of the villains. Even though there's no guarantee that he'll be able to kill everyone with his new powered-up decay quirk, he'll most likely be able to mortally wound them. Make them go out of commission. Not to mention, we still haven't seen all the Liberation Army teams and League of Villain members for the Paranormal Liberation Front in this arc yet. I mean, we are like 3 chapters in. It's still going to be a long time before this arc is over, especially if this is supposed to be one big war arc. But I do believe that Shigaraki will most likely wake up within the next chapter or 2. Mirko will have to fight him. She'll get beat, but not out of commission, I hope. The rest of the heroes show up to try and fight him. They put up a good fight. Shigaraki takes them down as well. And then this will play into the whole fact that the heroes disappear from the city thing from a couple of chapters ago. Now, this is just my theory after talking about this chapter. Not a hell of a lot happened, but a lot of important things did happen once again in this chapter, and I really love it. I know everyone's most likely going to be loving this. So yeah, Ujiko has a quirk that keeps him from aging, keeps him young. He has been confirmed to copy quirks from previously existing quirk users while they're still alive. He doesn't have to kill them. He doesn't have to turn them into Nomu to get their quirks, or use All For One's quirk to do the whole transfer thing. So, now Ujiko lost a hell of a lot of quirks from Mirko's barging into his lab. So, the one thing I need to bring into account is that Ujiko was holding a jar in his hand right before he was about to tell Johnny to teleport him away. And I think we all know what quirk could most likely be in that jar. All For One. So yeah, that's what I think. Ujiko is terrified because this jar could have the only copy of All For One. For all we know, he can make copies multiple times because I do believe that multiple Nomu will have super regeneration. However, they do have a limit to that. So I do believe that he can copy the quirks and place those specific quirks into Nomu, but maybe the All For One quirk, he only has that single copy, and if that's gone, he can't get it unless he has actual access to All For One. Not to mention, with all these heroes taking on the hospital and the Liberation Army, like I mentioned in the previous video, we could see All For One break out of the prison. Maybe it was thinking of it the whole time, because Kurogiri is currently in there, and All For One's there, even Stain's there, and Overhaul. So this could end up being a big prison break in the middle of the war arc. Which, even if Ujiko loses the copy of All For One, the quirk itself, if the villain All For One manages to break out using Kurogiri somehow, Ujiko, if he ends up surviving, bam, another copy of All For One goes into Shigaraki so he can become the full-fledged successor, and then all the heroes would have to fight All For One as Shigaraki is getting the finishing touches in this procedure. I don't think that portion of it is going to happen, but there's definitely going to be a prison break. I mean, you can't name something Tartarus based over Greek mythology and not have some kind of prison break. I mean, come on. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this chapter. A lot of important things were revealed. We got new best girl Mirko, and we have confirmation that the Doctor can in fact copy quirks and implant them into multiple Nomu. And he also has a quirk himself, which is the reason that All For One has been able to live for so long. But yeah, what did you guys think of this chapter? Was this great? Were you a little underwhelmed? Was this better than you thought it would be? Leave your comments below. And whatever you think will happen next, let me know. Maybe I'll make a video. Maybe I'll make a video on it. But one thing I do want to leave you off with before this whole video is done. Where is Gigantomachia in all this? We do know that Gigantomachia will in fact play a big role in this arc, because he is basically sworn to Shigaraki now, since he is his master's successor, since Shigaraki proved himself. So, is Gigantomachia hiding somewhere in the hospital? Or is he at the mansion at Shigaraki's request? We have no clue. So whatever happens, happens. Gigantomachia could be the very thing that everyone's going to have to team up to take down. But yeah, that's all I really have to say then. Great chapter, great reveal, new best girl placed into the series, and all around a great chapter. I can't wait to see what happens next. So, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Official Review Cave. If there's other manga or anime that you want me to review in this style or in like a more edited video, please let me know. And hope you guys have an awesome day.